The secrets to Izanagi and Izanami are revealed in my review of Naruto Shippuden, episode 338. This was a pretty important episode of Naruto Shippuden, and it's kind of ironic and funny in a way, because it's very similar to last week's episode. You could almost say this is an Izanami episode of sorts, because it actually does sort of follow the same sort of plot line, except that you get to see it dressed up in a few different colors, and you get a much better explanation as to how this move works. Now, when I was reading all of this in the manga, when they were explaining Izanami for the first time, they used all of those graphs that Itachi was using in this episode when he was explaining the move. And when I was reading it there, it was confusing. When I was reading it here, it was confusing. Essentially, what I can understand is Izanami just traps people in an infinite loop that creates the same sensation they felt before, and they basically are stuck in this infinite loop until they can fully accept who they are and have full acceptance of themselves, and then they can escape from this weird loop of death. Now, what's interesting about this is he goes into this huge explanation as to why Izanami was created in the first place, and it was created as a counter to the Izanagi. And the main reason is because when Izanagi was used by one member of the Uchiha clan, it could work to their benefit. However, when there's more than one person who's using the Izanagi, they can get overly arrogant, and they can basically go batshit insane, and that's what you get to see in this weird backstory. You get to see there's these Uchiha members. One of them uses Izanagi, and then he ends up fighting against another Uchiha member who also uses Izanagi, and you can basically see it goes through like this cycle of them just sort of constantly killing each other, trying to gain the ultimate power. And then eventually this one Uchiha clan member who's been using the Izanagi recklessly is confronted by this one female Uchiha member, and we don't really get her name or anything, but she essentially uses the Izanami technique that Itachi was using against Kabuto, and you get to see a lot of the same events are happening. And you can see it's very similar to when Itachi was using Izanami. He's stepping on these flowers, which he keeps doing repeatedly. He ends up getting attacked in the same way. She always drops her sword, and then he realizes that he's stuck. But unlike Kabuto, he actually accepts who he is, and he decides to go ahead and go away. But you could actually see, just like the Izanagi, she loses her eyesight when she uses the ability. So it is still pretty hardcore. But what is most interesting about this episode is you get to see that Kabuto is pretty much stuck for good here. There's really nothing he can do, and there's even another scene where he tries to break out again, but it's still all in his mind, and it's really nothing that he can control. And what's also really cool is I like how they went away from their actual battle for a minute, and you got to see that Kabuto's old friend from the orphanage is actually in the middle of the war right now. He's a medical ninja, and he laments over the fact that maybe he'll be able to see his brother soon after this war is all done. The end of this week's episode has by far the most important scene, and that is when Itachi's getting ready to end the Edo Tensei reanimation jutsu. And I like how it's handled because you can see that Sasuke is incredibly conflicted. You know, he still, I don't think, trusts his brother 100%, but at the same time, he realizes that when he releases this jutsu, he's going to be gone too. And he's also kind of angry at him too because he doesn't know why he's letting, like, Kabuto live before he can die, in a way. He sort of wants, you know, Itachi basically sees himself in Kabuto, and he doesn't want to, like, basically see that happen again. And I'm guessing that's just what's happening here. He's basically sort of cleaning up, sweeping things under the rug, so to speak. And Sasuke, you know, obviously he's upset that his brother is about to leave, and, you know, the reanimation jutsu being released is going to have some major repercussions on the world, and I can't wait to see how that's going to affect everything next week. Otherwise, this was an okay episode. I was expecting maybe a little bit more from it, from what I got from the previews, and maybe just a little more explanation as, like, to who those Uchiha clan members were. I know they're not that important to the story, but I did like that they added in those visual aids to explain Izanami a little bit more, because even in the anime version, it's confusing. It's not as confusing as in the manga version, which I just didn't get at all, but, you know, all you really need to know is infinite loop, you can get trapped in it, and that sucks. So like I said, this was not a perfect episode. In a way, this was like an Izanami genjutsu. It was sort of a repeat of last week's with a little more explanation behind it. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It was a fairly interesting episode, and I'm sure that Naruto fans will be able to find something in it that they can like. But otherwise, pretty entertaining. Check it out, guys. So if you guys had a chance to check out this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden, you can let me know what you thought about it with your comments below. Remember, guys, before you leave, make sure and give this video a thumbs up. It is absolutely one of the best ways to support our videos. So I will see you next time, guys. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.